Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawks fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Mr. Keith Myers. We are here on a Sunday. The Seahawks team has the day off, but we are here to talk about what we've witnessed, what we've heard, and what we like about and dislike about training camp so far. We tried to record earlier this weekend, but it just didn't work out. But here we are today, and we're locked in on this thing. So welcome in, Keith. Let's talk Seahawks football.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and we're actually talking about guys on the field, doing football things instead of trying to get through an off season where nothing's happening. So yeah, lots to talk about, really. There's, the first week of practice is in the books, and there's been some good, there's been some bad, there's been some, awful news.
Well, let's get those injuries out of the way right away, because really that's what we're talking about with the bad. There's, other than that, I'm not really seeing a lot of bad. So that's good. Hey, is that a Smittix?
It is.
Wow.
Leftover from our other show.
Yep. Oh, wow. Okay.
I bought a 4-pack when I bought them. So I'm like, I need something.
I am seriously jealous right now. I love that stuff. So, the pads come on Monday, but the intensity seems to already be dialed up. They've had 4 days of practices. So we've got kind of notes from four different days, going to kind of blend them all together. Next Saturday is the Fan Fest, and then it's game week mode. In the following week, they're getting ready to play the Las Vegas Raiders at home in the first preseason game, one of 3. So this thing is on. But let's get this thing, the injury stuff. So we already kind of knew about Uchenna Nwoso, and he had off-season knee surgery. Not exactly sure what that entailed, if it was a full repair or if it was a cleanup. He's not ready to participate. Mike Macdonald had a press conference after practice the first day and indicated that he didn't have a timeline and really didn't know exactly when he was going to be back, when he was going to be available. When coaches talk like that, it usually is leaning in the direction of longer than we think, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. So I would anticipate, based on those statements, Keith, that he starts the year on IR or the PUP list and stays on until he's ready to come back. And that could be anywhere from game 2 to game 8 or not at all. And so it's unfortunate for him. I like him as a player, works hard. He's out there even now, encouraging his teammates and so on and so forth. He's just not able to be on the field. When a player's body fails you, and it's not just the same injury over and over, it's just different injuries. And he plays a very physical style of football, and it's just one of those things where it's gotten him, and it really impacted his ability to get on the field for the Seahawks.
Well, yeah, if you look back 2 years ago, he hurt his knee, I believe, after 6 games, and needed surgery, but it was early enough in the season that the thought was, he'll be ready to go, by week 1 of last year. And he wasn't. And he was just stayed on, the PUP list, and then came back for 1 game and then had to go on IR, and it came back for the last 4 games of the year. And so, but when we were done at the end of the year, there was this, we were basically told, okay, he's healthy. He's going to spend this off season, getting stronger and should be back to where he was pre-injury. And then we find out he had to have another surgery. And now he's not going to be ready for camp. He's not going to be ready for this week 1 of the season. This is a type of thing that ends careers. And that sucks, because great player, good dude.
It certainly
But
has the potential to end the run with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Now, he may get on the field this year, and that's fine. I hope he does. I really do. I mean, he impacts the game. He's a good player. He's a good teammate. Adds quite a bit of depth to that room, which all of a sudden now, Keith, seems lighter than it did when we talked about that position group just a few weeks ago.
Well, yeah, because we were thinking, you've got 4 guys for 2 spots on the from the edge rusher position, and now you've got 3. So now, you've barely got a rotation, and if one other guy gets hurt, banged up at some point this season, then you don't have a rotation. You're just leaning on 2 guys to try and do it all, and that's not a recipe for success. You got to be rotating those guys out, keeping them fresh.
It's an injury like this that seems to me will be addressed in one way or another by either claiming a camp casualty along the way here in the next week or so. Somebody's got to take those reps. We certainly have a fairly decent room of unproven guys behind the top 3, but that's really what they are. It'd be nice to get a guy that you could really depend on to come in and be that fourth rotation piece. And we'll see if they do that. And often if this happens early enough in camp, they usually do. And we've certainly got the cap space to do it. Now, as far as getting a guy like Trey Hendrickson in, it's probably not going to happen. He's older. You've got to probably extend him and pay exorbitant amounts of money to get a player like that. Now, would he make a huge difference on this team? Yeah. Could they even add a win or 2 in a season because of a player like that? It's possible. But do they go out and actually do that and execute that trade? Boy, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, the problem with that is that what did they trade to get him? Like that's
well, it's certainly a first.
Yeah, and they've only got 5 draft picks next year, and you don't really have a lot to trade with them. You don't have guys that you are okay trading away. Like if they'd done this when Noah Fant was still on the team, and the other could work something out as far as contracts there, maybe that could have been part of the package. But he's gone, and sounds like he's going to end up in Pittsburgh with the Jets with Russ. And so that'll be interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult spot. You're just not going to be able to, just not going to be able to go and grab a guy that plays at a high level at this point. And that
right.
It's hard to overcome the loss of guys when they get hurt early in camp.
Yeah. That's why I think, maybe the final cut downs, you could see them scouring that wire and see if they could find a player. Sometimes that does happen. Another player that's out there that just got released by, in fact, Pete Carroll and the Raiders is Christian Wilkinson. Now, that player could be interesting as a defensive tackle. He's just not going to be an edge guy, but he does. He's a big guy, 330, something like that, and he could be here to help stop the run, 2-gap defender. We lack that true nose tackle. That would be interesting. They let him go for a reason, though. There are reports that he was a little disgruntled, and he is currently recovering from a foot injury that the team felt like he wasn't putting a good faith effort in to heal timely and properly. So there's some things there you'd have to consider for sure. Let's go and talk about Kenny McIntosh. That's the injured player, the other injured player we were referring to early about the bad news. Kenny McIntosh goes down in practice on Saturday morning and apparently has an ACL that has not yet been confirmed by the team, but it has been reported by multiple sources, including Adam Schefter and others. Let's talk about the impact. It's third string, right? Mm-hmm. But it still has an impact on this roster. What is the impact as far as what Kenny McIntosh brings to the table, what he was potentially going to add to this offense, and then what happens behind him now for that third spot as far as the competition.
He would be third. I mean, that's one of the things. He's not passing either of the two guys above him, but Ken Walker has had a hard time staying healthy. And so you've needed a guy that can come in and get those backup snaps and reps in games when he's out. And McIntosh did really well with that. He plays special teams. He is good receiving the ball out of the backfield and ran significantly better between the tackles last year than he ever has before. But McIntosh's roster spot was not guaranteed. The Seahawks, it was a 7th round pick, but they drafted a guy who's going to be, he was younger, he's cheaper, and he's under team control longer, and has considerable talent of his own, and that would be Damien Martinez. 7th round pick, good speed, 6 foot 220. So he's a guy that can run people over. And he was there he was going to be pushing McIntosh's spot for the roster. So that was going to be one of those camp battles that we were really watching. And now it seems that there's not much of a battle. It's just going to, Martinez, you could kind of pencil him in as the third guy now.
Well, yes, you could pencil him in, but I wouldn't necessarily get that pen out just yet. George Holani might have something to say about that. Now, George Holani was an undrafted guy, came in from Boise State last year as an undrafted guy, stuck around the peripheral roster, special teams, mostly on the practice squad, but elevated, I think, for a game. And, he really was preparing to give it a good go this training camp to see if he could actually land on the roster. So he's in there fighting as well. So that'll be interesting because those guys were going to get the bulk of the carries in preseason. So we're going to be able to see a lot of George Holani and Damien Martinez, I think, in preseason games. And we'll see. Now, I wanted to talk about Damien Martinez just for a second because I've had a couple of reports that I've seen, one from Kandata, I think the other one from Brian Nemhauser, who's been watching training camp in person during this season. He's got credentials at this point. And he was talking about Damien Martinez and felt like he watched Damien Martinez drop 2 passes in drills and felt like there's a potential that maybe he isn't quite ready for pass pro and catching the ball out of the backfield, which was the primary role that Kenny McIntosh was going to have in this offense. Kenny McIntosh wasn't probably going to take more than 5 snaps a game if everyone was healthy. But he did have that ability. Now, on that third guy, you definitely want a guy that can come in and do that. And it really depends on how dynamic the running back skills, the running skills of Damien Martinez is, if the team is willing to kind of bring him along on the pass pro stuff. And we'll just have to see. I think that the days of, you have a guy whose job is to come in on 3rd and long and be the 3rd down back, and that are kind of over, because you've got guys that are like Ken Walker and Charbonnet that can do the job. You don't need to take them off the field. They're just as good as any quote unquote 3rd down back. And so I don't think that it matters quite as much as it did, 10 years ago, or by this point it's 15 years ago. Back when in the kind of the Mike Holmgren days and the end of that. Nowadays it's you've got starters that can do those things. You're not looking for a separate skill set. What he needs to be able to do is to come in and take snaps and run up the middle. I mean, he needs to be able to break tackles and he needs to be able to run the ball, because if he comes onto the field, right, it's because someone else has been hurt and they're needing someone to carry the load. And that's what he does. That's what he's going to be good at. They would like him to be better at the other things, because when he comes on the field, you don't want to have that be telegraphing that you're running the ball and not going to throw it. But
the third down or the third string running back is more of a special teams player than an offensive player. So a lot of it will come down to what he can do there.
Kenny McIntosh was in the running for kick returns and punt returns as well. So that may have impacted that competition. We'll have to see who emerges there. Let's go through a few other headlines, and then we'll kind of dive into individual players as well beyond that. I wanted to just talk about the quarterbacks up front. I think that's a big headline. Something for me on Sam Darnold and Drew Lock is you can safely say that they've just been really solid. Sure, there's been some interceptions. The defense is really good. And they're, the defensive backs in particular are very savvy, and they're going to make some plays. We should expect that. Now, Sam Darnold and Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe, they also have some good plays under their belts in the first 4 days of practice as well. So this is a pretty balanced report for the most part, offense and defense. The reason I say that Sam Darnold looks solid is because I think it's important that he come out and look solid, look the part, understand the offense, be able to be in control, run the offense, get guys in position. And he seems to be doing all of that. And Drew Lock as well seems to be picking things up rapidly and just being kind of looking like that solid backup should look at this time of the season. He's going to get a lot of playing time in preseason as well. And then Jalen Milroe, Keith, I've almost pledged to myself, and maybe you have too, that we're not going to be some hype machine here for Jalen Milroe. This is not like the Jalen Milroe show.
Yes.
But this guy keeps showing up, and he looks like he's going to be special. Okay.
He does.
So it's kind of like
athletically, he is special.
Yes. Well, it's kind of like when DK Metcalf showed up, right? And we knew DK Metcalf was kind of a special quality, that special speed, height, weight, speed combo. He lacked some refinement on route running and so forth. And we just kind of said, okay, he's going to be good, but we just can't, we don't want to put too much out there on him and so on. So expectations. I get this same sort of sense with Jalen Milroe. It's like, you've got to be able to observe what he's doing and be able to talk about it. But also, how do you talk about it without really just falling in love with this player and having that show through? Because he's just he's doing all the things you want him to do, which is the progression from, say, the Senior Bowl to this moment. So he went through mini camps. He went through mandatory stuff. He came into training camp ready. He understands the offense. He's going through his progressions. He's looking good. They haven't even had him run yet in these practices. He's not scrambling. He's standing in there, completing throws all over the field, including deep down, taking shots. Excuse me. So how do we get away from the hype machine?
Well, let me add two things to this. One, quarterback is different than wide receiver. At wide receiver, Metcalf was able to come in and just use his physical tools. At quarterback, you can have the physical tools, but it comes down to, can you read the defense? Can you see what they're doing? Find your progressions fast enough, get the ball out of your hand. And that's not a physical thing. That's a mental thing. And we don't know where he is in that. I would say that that's something that, with all, give him time, guys. Let's not rush him. Let him learn. Okay. The other part that I would say is that it's easy to look good at quarterback when nobody's wearing pads yet. Because no one's getting after you, rushing the passer. You don't have guys in your face. You're throwing against air half the time. It's different. Let's get some pads on. Let's get people hitting.
But there are those little things that are showing up that are just kind of the intangible things that he's doing really well. The, ball placement.
Oh,
timing,
yeah, absolutely.
All the things. It's like he's doing everything else that all the other quarterbacks are expected to do and are doing. So it's not like he's head and shoulders way above them. It's just that the expectation that he was going to be a passer and look really good and his footwork was going to be refined and so forth was just not there. And now it is, apparently, like according to all reports, his footwork looks outstanding and his ball placement and timing are good. And there's no drawbacks yet.
If you go back and look at his pre-draft tape, when he set his feet, when he had his footwork dialed in, he threw it accurately and was a great thrower. But he got really sloppy with his footwork, especially if there was any pressure whatsoever.
Especially from 2023 to 2024. Like there was a discernible drop off in. Yeah. Right.
And so you move him off his spot, you get his feet moving, and now his mechanics break down and his accuracy falls apart. So yeah, again, it's great. It's easy to look really nice when you're not, facing a real defense, when you know he's got pads on yet no one's hitting. Let's see how he does in the preseason, right? When the other team is actually coming after him and at the same time allowed to touch him. You're not allowed to touch him in practice. And we'll see, an idea of if he's truly making genuine improvement and progress in that phase of his game. I don't think we'll know that until preseason game starts. But I'm not trying to be like, oh, this guy's awful. I'm not. I'm excited about him just as much as everyone else, but I am trying to tamp down the hype a little bit because I don't think expecting him to do what Russell Wilson did and beat out two guys his rookie training camp and become the starter by week 1 I don't think that's a fair set of expectations for Jalen Milroe. And even like if it's close, I'm not sure we want to rush him because he does have some things that if he can fix, he can be a special player. And if you rush him out there too soon, he'll fall back into bad habits and not be able to really fix the issues that he has. So I'd rather let the team take time with him, get him ready before you put him out there. So that way you get the most out of the special player.
Wah, wah. No, all of what you said is accurate, makes sense. And we should listen to you on all of that for sure. And I totally agree. And, half of my earlier statement about him is just kind of trying to engage this conversation, but I am with you on board on all of that. It is, I'm pleased though. I will say this, I'm pleased with his progress. Like he's right on target or ahead of schedule compared to where we all thought we were going to be with him.
He's ahead of schedule, and they have not even brought in a single one of the Wildcat type package plays that were going to be built around him and his skill set. They haven't even ran one of those in practice yet. At some point, they're going to do that, and then
it's going to get really electric.
Yeah, then the hype will get difficult to tamp down, but. At this point, I mean, he is ahead of schedule. Let's be honest about that. He's playing well.
So I need to give some credit where credit is due. We're going to have a few more headlines to talk about a few players here with some success so far. And one of those that really stands out is Robbie Oates. Robbie Oates is apparently
already won the fullback job.
Solidified his role as the number one fullback in this offense from day one. The first day of training camp, they moved Brady Russell back to the tight end spot. Now, I think that he's taken a couple snaps here and there at the fullback spot.
He's still working out.
Be the backup.
He's still working out with the second team at fullback. Oates is working out with the first and third team at fullback, and then Russell's working out with the third team at tight end. So they've moved him back to tight end, but they're still having him because if you only got one fullback on the roster, you can't have that one guy do every single snap in the offense because in practice with all three units, that's how you kill a guy. So yeah, they're still using Russell there a little bit, but they're using him there to, make sure they don't wear Utes out. They're not using him there because they see him as an option there. He's essentially a camp body at fullback, but a guy that could make the roster at tight end because we've seen that in the past. He's a good blocker and guy that works hard and does well in special teams. So
let's stay with the tight end position really quick and talk about AJ Barner and Elijah Arroyo, because AJ Barner has really solidified himself as the leader, the new leader of this tight end room, and he looks completely capable and it suits him well. And
we saw that last
physical
year.
Guy, and he interviews well. He says all the right things. He does all the right things in practice, and he's making plays out there. So he checks all the boxes. I really like that. Elijah,
we saw that last year as the season progressed. The more that he got on the field, the more he got to play, the better he looked, and you could see him by the end of the year, he was the best tight end on the team. Fant had, the name and the contract and all of that, but Fant can't block. And, Barner can, and he was capable in the passing game and very capable as a blocker. So it's not surprising that he's the number one guy, but then the rookie Arroyo has come on and just put on a show as a receiver. And
very impressive so far.
Yeah, basically nobody's missing Fant at this point because there's nothing he could do that Arroyo is not doing in practice. The team was comfortable
and confident enough to move off of Fant before training camp even started because of this player.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be fun to watch. I'm not even going to talk about health stuff because it's just a new day for him. He's a impressive player. He's been out there, since he's been drafted with the team, and it looks like it's going to be a guy that's going to be featured in this offense, not just a player that's going to take, be a second or third team. He's not going to be behind Eric Saubert. He's not going to be expected to be an inline guy. They're going to use him as a featured move tight end in this offense. And it is going to be fun to watch because we just haven't had a guy like that. This dynamic, I don't think. Fant had the promise of Noah Fant was that, but he just never evolved into that. Let's talk about the offensive line. I think that's probably, the next kind of headline, at least on the offense. Then we'll switch over to the defense. But the offensive line is interesting. Mike Macdonald came out and said, this thing isn't settled yet. We still have two positions essentially up for grabs, the center position and the right guard. A lot of those players are kind of moving back and forth, including Christian Haynes at center and Jalen Sundell at right guard. Among other combinations. And it sounds like Anthony Bradford is really kind of showing up as well, as a guy that, maybe we should be reconsidering, not only making the team, but having an impact or potentially starting, at right guard. There's a lot to like there with him as far as the run blocking, but the pass blocking,
I've heard
he's got to be able to do that.
Some not great things. As regarding his performance so far through 4 games, but again, no pads. So how meaningful is it? Probably not much. But I've heard that he's been getting beat especially in one-on-one drills, by not even the top guys, like guys that are down on the depth chart are still getting him, in those pass rush snap, drills. And, that's not a good thing for him. But yeah, Christian Haynes is getting a lot of reps at right guard, and then they move him over to center, and he gets a lot of reps at center.
And Mike Macdonald said he's in the competition for the starting center position.
Yeah,
he said although he is behind Oluwatimi and Sundell at this point, the fact that they're putting him over there, I don't know if it means they're not satisfied with the two guys at the top, or they just want to make sure Christian Haynes can play like 3 positions, on this offense. And so they're just moving him around to kind of really just get him comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really hard to read. Like, are they happy with Christian Haynes? Like, is he going to be one of the starters, or are they moving these guys around because they just truly don't know who's going to stand out?
Yeah. I mean, they opened camp talking about how excited they are to get Sundell out there, and because he came over late, right after training camp, right before the season, and so he never really got a training camp, and they were excited about him, and not to count him out that he might end up as the starter, and all of that, and it really feels like kind of the same thing that happened last year, where Oluwatimi is not impressing the people he needs to impress in camp, and they're looking for other options, and they're trying Haynes out there because Haynes has a lot of the measurables and abilities that you'd want out of a center. Does he have the knowledge of what everyone else's job is to do all the line calls and stuff that a center does? I don't know, but we'll see with that. He's a guy that can definitely do it. But at the same time, who's going to play right guard? I mean, the fact that they're moving him to center shows that he hasn't won the job at right guard outright. And so you've got Bradford, who is in the mix there, Lemea, who's in the mix there, and now they've got Sundell getting snaps over there. And I don't know if that's because they want to see if he can win that job, or if they're just wanting to, because they're pulling Haynes and sticking him at center. They're like, okay, we need to make sure Sundell gets enough reps, and so they're using him at guard. I don't know. It is interesting as far as that stuff goes. Gray Zabel's kind of been one of those guys that everyone's been watching because he's first round pick, the highest interior lineman drafted by Seattle, except for Steve Hutchinson. And so, yeah, it's there are a lot of people watching him. Apparently he got burned really badly by Jerron Reed in a practice in the one-on-one drills, and really struggled a little bit, and people were like, ugh. But then he's kind of redeemed himself, and he's stepped up and been dominating guys, and kind of more like what we saw at the Senior Bowl, where we don't care that he's at a small school. He walked in at the Senior Bowl and just dominated every rep. Now he's playing against pros. We're playing against really good pros like Leonard Williams, and yeah, he's gotten beat a couple times, but he's also stonewalled Leonard Williams a few times. Exactly. And guys don't stop Leonard Williams in one-on-one drills. That's just not heard of. So, he's looked like he's every bit what we thought he was.
Charles Cross and Abe Lucas have looked really good and solid as well. It's great news with Abe Lucas. There's no taking plays off with him or anything. No trying to watch his knee. It's all good stuff. Michael Jarrell's been taking reps, looking good. One kid to keep an eye on that I've heard his name over and over again as a guy that's really popping in practice is Luke Felix Fualalo. Looks like a guy that the Seahawks may want to try and keep. Now he may be on the practice squad, but I think they want to keep him there and develop him over time. Sounds like a guy that's getting more focus from the coaching staff.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, you offensive line is one of those positions where sometimes guys come out of nowhere, and you're like, here's this guy that was undrafted free agent, and he comes in, and you're like, why did nobody draft this kid? Like, he just walks in and is better than you could have possibly dreamed. Right. It's kind of a weird, offensive line is so hard to evaluate. And so sometimes that kind of stuff happens, and it's a good problem to have. I mean, do the Seahawks need another young guard that they're trying to develop? Yeah, actually they do. They can use, you can never have too many. But they do have a bunch of young interior linemen that they're trying to develop.
Do.
So
Lumen
add another name to it.
There,
Bryce Cable who I haven't heard much, I haven't heard anything about in terms of camp. But he's in that mix too, as a guy who's trying to keep himself on the roster and find a way to move himself up the depth chart a little bit if he can.
So let's go to the other side of the ball. I've heard some good things. It's funny. I've been hearing more about the offense in this camp so far than the defense. Defense just seems to be doing their thing. They're solid. Nobody's really paying attention to him because they're kind of a known quantity. Everyone's kind of focused on the offense. And sometimes when you don't have pads and everyone's just going through the stuff, it's easier to stand out, I think, on offense. But Byron Murphy's been looking good. Understand he's just as strong as an ox. Leonard Williams talked about him when he gave his little press conference about a player that's really standing out to him, and it was Byron Murphy. Expects him to have a Pro Bowl level type season, stepping up again this year over last year, and maybe adding some pass rush type stuff. Hankins is out, and while he is out, Peely and Bohanna have an opportunity to step up, and according to reports, both those guys are really doing a good job and really solid right now. It's too early to tell because that's definitely a position where you're going to need pads on to be able to accurately know exactly where those guys are at. You mentioned Jerron Reed, Leonard Williams, both those guys, consummate pros. They're doing their thing. DeMarcus Lawrence, coach came out, here's his first press conference and essentially said he's the best practice player and best, what do you call them? Where they do the, all the group stuff. Said he's just one of the best guys, the practice guys he's ever seen. And leading by example, all that kind of stuff. So
comes
it's good to see DeMarcus Lawrence in there.
He works hard the entire time, even in the weight room. Just like he doesn't take a rep off in the weight room, and he tries to push other people. And it's like, don't just do your reps, do them faster. Get it done. Like, push yourself to become stronger, more powerful. And he's just going around hyping everyone up, making guys work harder. He's not a coach; he's a player. Yeah, but he's going around basically like a coach, just trying to get guys to work harder, get guys to do more, get guys to be better. And I freaking love that. I love it. Like, you can never have enough guys like him on your roster.
3 guys on the defensive line: Jared Ivy, Boye, Mafe, Derek Hall, some pass rushers. All the 3 of those guys are standing out so far in camp. And
Jared Ivy might be the one that makes the Uchenna Nwoso news a little less impactful, because he has looked straight up explosive. And I mean, again,
they're
no
different
pads.
players. They're different players.
Very much. They're different players, but if you got a guy who's playing and he's showing that much explosiveness, you can do some things with that. Yeah, that'll help you mitigate the fact that you don't have that speed rusher off the edge quite. So you can do some different things. I told you at draft, I am still shocked he did not get drafted. It's so weird.
We talked about Jared Ivy when we did the defensive end show leading up to the draft, and we spent a little bit of time on him as a player that we thought would be a good fit. And sure enough, Ernest Jones looks good. Boy, he gives a good interview. Like, he did an interview I saw, and then he did a little presser where he answered questions, and he's just so spot on with all of his answers, and kind of a fun guy to watch. So if you get a chance to see his interview there on, I think Seahawks.com has some player interviews, or at least the press conference type stuff. Tyrese Knight looking good. Nick Emanwari, haven't heard a lot about Nick Emanwari. I think he's just heads down focused on trying to learn it, to be a big nickel in this defense. And so far, I mean, no negative things. Just haven't heard a lot of things about him. I've
heard a lot about Tyrese Knight. Guys are just talking about how, like, he looks fast. He's getting to the ball like faster than you'd expect him to, getting up into the hole and being able to, like, they can't tackle, no pads, but he can get up and end the play by making contact with the running back, like right at the line of scrimmage. There's no chasing, and because he's been really fast and making his reads. So I've heard a lot of really good things about him. But yeah, Emanwari is a guy that I think we all are interested in, but let's see what happens when they get pads on, because that's when the defense can start to really stand out, because they can be physical and they can actually do things that they want to do instead of just chasing. So,
well, I mean, a player at his same position that's been actually really standing out is DeAnthony Bell. D'Anthony Bell is a name I've been hearing over and over and over again, as far as a guy that's just making plays, being in the right spot. If pads were on, he would have been making tackles for loss, intercepting passes, tipping balls, all that kind of stuff. I mean, a guy that's just really active in the defense is going to be a guy that's going to make this roster, and we talked about him when we did our safety show as a guy to watch for. They could potentially jump like Jarek Reed and Tyakota and some of those other guys for that fourth spot. And it looks like he's doing everything he can to get that. Isis Waxter is making some flashy plays and very consistent so far, from what I understand. Been a consistent player, which is good news. I mean, if you want a guy to bring along on your roster on the back end, and it's nice to be able to have his body type. He's like 6'1", 210 pounds. There's not a lot of guys, not a lot of corners like that. And we've got Woolen, but it'd be nice to have another one. Most of the other guys that we've got are a little undersized. Woolen's look good. Witherspoon's look good. Griffin hasn't been out there. I don't know what's going on. He missed the first practice, and then he came back for Thursday's practice, but then he missed Friday and Saturday with a family issue.
Undisclosed personal reason, but he was been excused from practice. Yes. So it's not like he's AWOL and the team's about to cut him. Something happened. He's taken care of it. He's getting to practice when he can. Which he did. He was there for a couple of days and then had to go back out again. So we don't know what's going on. And until he's back long enough to answer questions, and if he's willing to actually state, what was going on, then we may never know. But I hope whatever it is with him, I hope he gets it settled and that everything's okay.
The one guy I haven't heard literally anything about so far this camp is Pritchett. Nehemiah Pritchett.
Agreed.
Which is disappointing, I think.
I've not seen his name come up in any of the things.
So that's it. I mean, that's kind of my list of players to talk about, players that have stood out. We talked about, some of the headline type stuff. What's your overall impression so far?
My overall impression so far is that I think the offense looks like what we were expecting it to be. It's going to be steady. It's not going to be explosive. And I think we're going to have to be okay with that, because the only real explosive plays, like Milroe had one deep throw to, I think, John Reese Plumlee, that was like, deep down the field. But then the only other ones they've all been Drew Lock to Horton, the rookie. And everything else that you've seen, it's been a lot of 8 yards, 10 yards, 6 yards, 10 yards, like methodical things moving down the field. They're not really going deep the way that they used to under previous coaching staffs. And so get used to it.
I think they will. I think they will take their shots. I just don't know that it'll be as frequently. It won't be as frequent. Now, it was last year for Darnold in Minnesota's offense. So there is that capability. And in certain matchups, I think they try to take advantage, obviously.
Yeah, but who's the Jefferson in this offense? I could go take advantage of that. Go do that.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, Torrey Horton is having a heck of a camp, and way ahead of where anybody would imagine. I mean, a 5th round wide receiver would be. Obviously, he's got a skill set that's better than 5th round, but he's certainly showing up. And you can't, we've seen it over and over again. The Seahawks draft players in the 4th round and beyond at wide receiver, and they just don't turn out. But he's definitely got the skills and I think underrated instincts to be able to sit down in defenses, find open spots, and quarterbacks are finding him. So it's a player to watch. Like he's having one of those preseasons where he could supplant Scantling as the number 3 guy as far as how many snaps he gets, how many receptions he gets. Now Scantling still will serve that role as kind of a stretch the field kind of a guy. But Torrey Horton could be that dependable third wide receiver this team has lacked for a little while.
Yeah, well, they've had 3 wide receivers like last year. They had, unless you're saying Tyler Lockett's,
sure. Yeah.
unless you're saying Tyler Lockett's not dependable, and if you say that, then I think you're gonna
I think if
going to get a lot of hate from
if Torrey Horton had the year that that Tyler Lockett had last year, I'd be totally happy. Like 45 receptions, 650 yards, 3 or 4 or 5 touchdowns. Yeah. I would be thrilled with a new wide receiver to emerge in Torrey Horton for this offense, for years to come. That would be an outstanding season. I think he's got that ability. I really do, based on what I've seen so far.
Yeah. He's fun. He's got some speed. He's fun to watch. So he's not that big imposing presence that DK Metcalf was, but nobody's
going to be that.
Yeah, but he's got enough speed to get behind guys and stretch the defense and
unless
make
you
it hard.
Count Tyrone Broden, and he's a guy that's been practicing and showing up, and he's a 6'5" guy that's got 4.38 speed, and we'll just have to see. The chances of something like that working and making the roster are really small, but there's another guy that's got a big body and some speed. I'm thinking with him, if he makes the roster, it's a special teams thing. He's basically taken Derek Young's spot. Who's 6'2" and got a ton of speed. Now you got another guy with a ton of speed who happens to be younger and cheaper, under team control for longer. So up next, we've got the pads coming on Monday. We've already had some scuffles, some guys driven to the ground that weren't necessarily on purpose, quote unquote. Mike Macdonald's talked about the intensity of the team being ahead of where it was last year, and he thought that was a good thing, actually. And so having the pads come on Monday, I think guys are ready to start hitting and getting physical, and we'll see how that goes. It's they're your own teammates, but guys are eager to hit something at this point in training camp. We'll see how that turns out.
How do you feel about the news that the Seahawks are going to have a couple of joint practices with another team
practices
right before they play a game against?
They did that last year. It seemed to work out fine. I think it was Tennessee that we went and had practices with, and there wasn't any fighting or anything like that. I mean, a couple heated things or, jostling back and forth, but nothing, no punches thrown or anything like that. It's Green Bay this year. It's our 3rd preseason game, so I'm not sure if the game itself is going to be any good, but, I think the headlines that week will be the practices, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm fine with it. I think it's something that Mike Macdonald wants, and he's looking for something specific out of those things. And I think, whatever it is that he feels like his team is going to get, I'm totally for that.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan, just because when you're, practicing against your own teammates, you can trust that they aren't trying to hurt you. People get hurt, but there's no I'm going to dive at your knees and I don't care. Type of situation with your teammates, because nobody's going to do that. But when you're with other guys that are out there, I don't have that level of trust. And so for me, I'm not a fan of joint practices, but at the same time, I can see why Mike Macdonald would like them, because you're running. Guys get tired of running the same things, watching the same things. It's like the defense knows what the offense is going to run because they've seen them do it 75 times. Now you get a chance to get up against someone who's doing something different. The reads are different, and so it definitely expands how ready you are for the season and all of that. So,
and I think it gives the team, it's the mentality, the psychology of the team a little boost when they go against another team completely separate and isolated from them, and they find out exactly who they are, where they're at, how they're viewed, how you view somebody else. And I think it potentially could have a boost to their confidence as they head into that regular season. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's it. So we'll come back this next week, and we'll give you another update. Looking forward to this week of practices. It'll be interesting. For me, it's been offensive dominant as far as the kind of the storylines and where things are kind of shaking out. It'll be interesting to see
with the pads on.
I do. Yes, exactly. So
once the pads go on, the defenders are turned loose a little bit. They're no longer being forced to hold back on every play. And the defense is going to take over. I'm worried.
Very curious as to how this plays out on the interior, on both offense and defense, because in the trenches is where we've needed the most improvement, and I want to see where our offense is at right now. Like, let's measure this thing right now in early August, before September, and see how it turns out.
I would be willing to bet that by the time we get back together and record again, that there is some clarity on the starting offensive line, and that we know, at least going into the preseason, exactly where guys stand.
I hope so. I'm not in any hurry, but also you kind of want to know. That way those guys know, and they get all those reps, and they start working together. All right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and give us a like and a comment. And we will see you next time. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.